So welcome to a new guide on this channel, and this occasion is the Chorus Ensemble from Ableton. So this is not a review, it's a deep dive guide about this device. Now everything is in tiny chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. Now if you like what I do, remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to buy me a coffee, you can just check the description. Right, so right from the start, we can notice that we have 3 different types of chorus, but in reality, we have just 2 types, and the last one is going to be a vibrato, which is kind of its own kind of a modulation. So first, we're going to start right here on the classic one. So what is a chorus? A chorus belongs to the delay family. A chorus is kind of it's in its core, kind of a very short delayed signal. And of course, then we modulate it, and we modulate these times, but the times are really, really short. So we don't notice that there's a delay going on right there. This is how it kind of works behind the scenes. So let's just kind of take a look at to the first one, the classic, and we can see that we have 2 different lines, one for the left and one for the right. So, and they are offset from each other. They are not on the same place. But we can see that there's going to be some kind of a modulation with the sine wave and on the left and on the right. So if I kind of take this to the delay realm, kind of bring a delay right here, and I'm going to turn the chorus ensemble on. If I show you what I have right here, I have a very dull sound. So if I bring the delay and I go to times, I can make the delay very kind of a short. And I'm going to go maybe to 5 milliseconds, something like that, something super short, and I'm going to offset this one just a little bit from the other one. Now, of course, we can hear kind of a phasey sound, right? And that's what we get. Now, of course, what we can do in this case, we can disable the filter, and I'm going to go to the feedback all the way down. We just want 1 repetition, not many repetitions. So notice that we are kind of starting to get that kind of a chorus type of sound. Now the magic happens, it's when you start modulating these times by a very small amount. So if I enable this and I go to the time and I do just something like that, and I keep it kind of a short, notice that we kind of get a chorus sound, chorus-like sound. And if I turn it off, it sounds super mono. Now, of course, the chorus works in a different way. I just wanted to show you how it works behind the scenes. But right here, we have pretty much the same idea that we have on the delays. And we also have the kind of the same controls. We have a rate, which is going to be how fast we are going to be modulating the left and the right with the sine wave. Well, we have it right here. Then we have the amount. Well, that's going to be this control we have right here. How we're going to do it. It's going to be aggressive, or we're going to do something very mild. And then, of course, we have the left and the right. So for now, I'm just going to kaboom, delete this. So essentially we have our main sound, the synthesizer, that is going through the chorus ensemble. This is going to duplicate the signal twice, pretty much. And we have one on the left, one on the right. And by default, they are going to be offset from each other, just like we did with the delay. Now, of course, the rate will decide how fast this sine wave is going to modulate this. So if I go up on the rate, we are going to be getting, of course, just this kind of a different sound. And if we go to slower rates, of course, it's going to be a little bit, we get a mild effect. So remember that at the end of the day, the copies are being modulated. So if we go super fast, we can really hear this. And if I go all the way wet, we just get the modulation. And if I get closer to the dry, we get less of the process signal and more of the, the incoming signal. Right. So it depends on what you want to do. You can go all the way in and use this as a modulation kind of or maybe sound effects. It's just like a sound effects. Now usually if you want a little bit of chorus, you keep it on the 50-ish and the 1K-ish, and you're gonna be cool. Right, so pretty simple. Now then you have the amount. So the amount is going to be kind of the amplitude of what you're doing. Now right now, of course, this is going to be like this. And we are doing it by some amount. And if I go all the way in and do a little bit aggressive so we can, we can hear what is going on, we can hear the modulation. Now if I go down, the modulation is going to be very mild. And if I go all the way down, notice it sounds like nothing. It's because we are not doing anything, just very mild. Now if I go up, of course we can hear this. If you want just a little bit, or you want to go really aggressive, and enter to the kind of a sound effects territory. All of this is, at the end of the day, it depends on what you want to do. So then you have the feedback. So remember, the chorus kind of belongs to the delay family. So what we could do pretty much, we are kind of getting that feedback. We are self-feedbacking the sound. So at the end of the day, since everything's super short, you're not getting the same feedback you get with the delays, with long times, or you get the, all the repetitions. Well, this is not like that. Since everything's super close, the times are very short. What you get is a hollow sound, almost flanger type of sound. You can hear it right there. And notice I'm going all the way wet. So you get this flanger type of sound. And guess how the flanger works. So it works a little bit different, but this is kind of a part of this. Right, so you get this kind of a flanger type of sound, and you can invert the phase. This one is going to give you a more hollow sound. Notice it sounds a little bit different. Now you don't need to go all the way. Maybe you just want a little bit, just to get something more, I want to say normal, but something mild. Depends on what you want to do, of course. And if we blend it with the original signal, you can hear that there's something going on, but if I turn it off, it sounds really dull. Right? Super dull. So yeah, you use the chorus to add a little bit of magic. Right. So on the classic and the ensemble, you have extended controls. For now, I'm just gonna disable this and go all the way down to the feedback. But you get, what you get right here is a cutoff. And this is going to cut low frequencies. Now, if you're asking, it's going to cut whatever signal comes in, no, it's going to be cutting the process signal, the chorus one. So if I go all the way to wet and I do something that has low frequencies, I'm just going to be going to enable this, and I'm just going to start cutting. Notice that we get less lower frequencies, and it's because it's cutting. It's cutting lows, and we can go all the way to 2K. Which is pretty high if you ask me. Now, maybe you're wondering, why do we get a cutoff? So, of course, since we are getting some signal and that signal goes through the chorus and we are kind of duplicating the sound and modulating, what's going to happen if you have something that has a lot of low end or maybe a lot of sub and you apply a kind of a chorus and you're going to be starting to get, a little bit muddy. You're going to get, the sound is going to be a little bit muddy because you have a lot of low frequencies and you're duplicating sound at the end of the day. So what you can do, you can roll off or you can just remove the low frequencies to keep the low end check. Right. So then what else do you get? So you get a width control. I'm going to go to maybe 50%. So if you take the width, or maybe I'm going to go to 100 so we can really listen to this. 100% is going to be stereo, left and right. Pretty simple, stereo, full stereo. And since we can see right here that the left, it's a little bit offset from the right, we get stereo. And that's how stereo works. So if I go all the way down, everything is going to be mono. Right. And what happens if I go to more? 200%. So 200%, it's still stereo, but this is what it's doing. It's applying some mid-side processing. So it's going to be just wider. That's pretty much. But the normal one, the normal setting is going to be 100%. If you want to make it wider, it just, you can go to 200s. Right. So, okay, so that is the classic one. It's a very simple type of chorus. So what's going to happen with the ensemble? And as soon as we go there, we can really see that they are really different. So on this one, notice that we are doing it on two. So yeah, we are doing it twice. We are splitting the signal on two. And on the other one, we have it on three. So we have 3 repetitions of the sound, and then they are being modulated. Now, one small difference that you need to, of course, take into account is that the classic one is offsetting the one signal from the other one by a very small amount, right? That's how it's going to be modulating this. But on the ensemble, everything is kind of even. The offset and the splits are just even. So this, of course, is going to give you a more rich kind of a sound. And whenever you hear the word rich on the audio kind of a realm, it means more complex. It's not better or worse. It's just, a little bit more complex sound. That's all. Now the rest of the controls are just pretty much the same. So I can do maybe some rate like that, something fast-ish, maybe even a little bit of feedback. And I'm just gonna do a tiny little blend, and I'm gonna be switching, maybe do something with higher frequencies. Notice it sounds very different. It's just different. And on this one again, like the other one, we can go crazy with the amounts. And right here, it's not better nor worse, you just need to choose your poison pretty much, which one you like the most. But the controls are pretty much the same. The rate is just gonna make it faster, how, aggressive you want it to be. You want to cut low frequencies, you can. And if you want to make it wider, you just can. And of course, if you want that flangery kind of a sound, you are gonna be getting it. And even make it hollow, like that. Right, so that's the classic and the ensemble. So they're pretty simple to use, very classic type of devices. And I'm gonna go back to kind of a default right here. So now we need to kind of talk about the vibrato. So the vibrato, it's kind of its own thing. We are still using a sine wave. And notice that when you change from classic and ensemble to vibrato, some things are changing. You don't have a feedback, and the dry and the wet is grayed out. And it's because the vibrato is a kind of a different thing. So the vibrato, what will do, in essence, the definition is that it will modulate the pitch of whatever incoming signal, of course, you're feeding right here. You must not confuse vibrato with tremolo. A tremolo will modulate the volume, right? It's going to go up and down in volume. But the vibrato will just modulate the pitch up and down, or whatever it is that you're doing right here with the waveform. So as soon as I play it, we can hear there's something going on with our pitch. And this is not coming from our synthesizer, it's coming from the chorus ensemble. If I turn it off, we get it. So the vibrato again is going to modulate the pitch. Of course, the rate and the amount work exactly the same. If I go up in rate, it's just going to go faster, up and down in pitch by using a sine wave. And if I go with the amount, it's just going to be way aggressive. Or maybe we can do a little bit and just get a little bit of modulation right there. Now again, notice that we don't have a dry and the wet. This is going to pretty much process the whole signal, incoming signal, and just get it out. We cannot do a blend. Of course, we have no feedback because this is not behaving like a chorus, but we do have other controls. Notice that we can apply a filter, and this is going to be chopping pretty much everything because again, we don't have a dry and the wet. This doesn't work. But you can cut the low frequencies if you wish. Now, one thing that you need to notice that on the ensemble and on the classic, you get the same controls, with the filter, but on this ones you get the width, but on the vibrato you get other options. So what are these options? I'm going to do something not super aggressive, something like that. So you get the offset, and the offset is going to offset the left and the right. By default, when the sound comes into this device, left and the right are doing the same. We are doing the same thing, modulating the pitch the same way on left and the right. That's why it sounds super mono. And this synth is right now ultra mono. It's mono. So when we process this, the sound is going to still, go out mono. So what happens when you offset? So the offset pretty much follows the same idea than the classic and the ensemble. We are going to be offsetting the left and the right. Just by doing a little bit is going to, of course, give you that spread, because now left and right are being modulated a little bit different. Just by doing a little bit, it's going to give you that. Now, of course, you can go crazy. And if I go up in the amount, now the left and the right are just going completely different. So it gives you this kind of a sickness kind of a sound. Right, of course, you can all go right here to 180. Now it's completely the same, the opposite. Left and right are the opposite, but sometimes you just want to do a little bit, maybe, just to get that spread. Maybe this is too much. Just a tiny bit. Now, then the other thing is the shape. Now, by default, and this is on all the choruses pretty much, of course, since we are modulating something, the signal by some amount with some shape, usually it's kind of a triangle, or it's going to be a sine wave or something like that. And right here, of course, you cannot change the waveform. But on the vibrato, what you can do, and for now I'm just going to keep it on the same, so it's kind of easier to hear. The shape will change the sine wave to a triangle. And notice it's kind of sounds different. If I go sine wave, we hear this, it goes smoothly, but on the other one, it's kind of works a little bit different. Of course, you can make it really slow and just get a tiny change in pitch. And even do an offset if you wish. But yeah, pretty much what you're doing is just changing the sine wave for something in between of a sine wave and a triangle, or you go all the way and you get the triangle. But that's, the vibrato. That's what it does. It's a pretty simple kind of a, thing. Okay, and the last thing, of course, is going to be the output. We kind of already know what that does. It's going to go up in, volume or down in volume, because doing a little bit of vibrato is going to give you a kind of a boost in sound as well. So you can just kind of, go down or go up, depends on what you're doing. But then you have the warmth. And right here, the output will become, a little bit more useful. Now, what the warmth is going to do is going to apply distortion or saturation to your processed signal. And at the same time, it's going to filter a little bit of the high frequencies. Now, let me just bring a spectrum. Right, so I have a spectrum right here so we can see what is going on right here on the frequencies. And I've changed some of the settings on the analog synthesizer so it can sound a little bit kind of a bigger. I'm not cutting, and I'm not going to cut any of the frequencies, and I'm using unison. I'm just making it super wide. Now we can hear that the chorus is doing something even on default. That gives us that, kind of a sound. Now, the warmth, again, is going to give us distortion or saturation in this case, and at the same time, since we are adding harmonic content, it's going to sound a little bit brighter. Now, what it's doing behind the scenes when we do warmth is going to chop a little bit of the high frequencies. So you need to be aware of this. Right now we have high frequencies. I'm going to add the warmth, and I'm going to make it like that. And we can see that the warmth is bringing right here. We can see them. We are bringing more harmonics. So yeah, we are doing a little bit of distortion. And if I go all the way to the wet, it's just going to be a little bit easier to see. So yeah, we are just adding warmth, which is saturation. And if I go all the way up, notice what happens right here at the top. If I do nothing, we are not chopping the high frequencies from the processed signal. We are doing dry, wet 100%. So everything we are listening right now is what comes out of the chorus, not what comes in. So when I do warmth, we get more harmonics. It gets, we get warmness. But at the same time, it's chopping right here. And it's because, of course, when you distort something, you're adding harmonic content. So it will get super bright. So right here is just chopping those super higher frequencies. Right. So you need to be aware that when you use this, especially when you go all more on the wet side, if you're doing something that should sound super bright and you're doing a lot of warmth, this is just going to chop some of those high, the high frequencies. So you need to be kind of aware of this. So that's it. That's pretty much the whole device. It's a cool, simple, and effective course. What else do you want? So hopefully you learned something today on this tiny little guide. And remember, of course, if you like what I do like and subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can go to the description and you have links for Patreon. You have the PayPal thing. You have the YouTube thanks. So if you want to buy me a coffee, you can. Right? So see you on the next one.